called the power of the purse. And in Federalist 58, James Madison described the centrality of power and the purse's role in the growth or non-growth of government. And that this power over the purse may in fact be regarded as the most complete, effectual weapon with which any constitution can arm the immediate representatives of the people, U.S. House, for obtaining redress of grievance and for carrying out into effect every just and salutary measure. Can I get a pledge from you guys? We can, try to pass bills, 57 times. We can go through all these showing that we're tough, but will we really use the power of the purse that we've been given in the Constitution to defund every single dime of this tyranny coming from Washington, D.C.?
I will pledge to do that. In fact, last time, in 2010, when I had the opportunity to work on some legislation that the Livestock Association was concerned about, the EPA was trying to regulate livestock emissions. It's called cow gas. They want to regulate that because it's methane. They think methane is part of greenhouse gases. So I put a very simple phrase in the agricultural appropriations bill that said, no funds shall be spent regulating or enforcing or regulating livestock emissions. And to this day, they have not done that. Now, I left in 2011, and there's been plenty of opportunities, I think. The first opportunity just happened last month in June when Hal Rogers finally decided to defund the IRS agents in Obamacare. That's a great fight to have. I think they should have been doing that in 2011 after I left. In fact, I talked to him. He asked me, I was the ranking member on Health and Human Services, and he said, what would you do to combat Obamacare? And I said, I'd start defunding the chunks of it. Pick your fights wisely, the ones you can win. How many here like IRS agents in healthcare? I don't see any hands. That's a great fight to have, and I think that's the first example in two Congresses where they finally decided to exercise the purse. They don't think they should be fully funding any executive orders or parts of Obamacare. The executive orders that I've talked about are the ones that have not passed Congress. EPA's greenhouse gas emissions, for example, when the Democrats controlled both the House and the Senate in 2009 and 10, they couldn't pass greenhouse gas legislation. So the president is going ahead and enact this. And the Republicans in the House have fully funded that part of it. So, yes, I'll take that pledge.
You should be careful about believing what politicians tell you. You should. You should. Me too. I've been elected for 3.5 years. I run a small business. You should verify, just like Mr. Reagan talked about, right? I'm not even sure you should start with the trust part when you're talking to a politician. The spirit acts like he's brand new to this. Like you talk about PACs as if he's never met one. He talks about Mr. Boehner like Mr. Boehner hadn't come to Kansas. Mr. Reagan's fun for him. Is that right? One time. So just be careful. When somebody tells you something and you go, gosh, that sounds great. I just want to make sure everybody has data. I love facts and data. I was an engineer by training at West Point. I love facts and data. So he just said he would work to fund government. He criticized a piece of legislation that I offered, an amendment actually, that had to do with the government and complaints. Remember talking about this, about consumer complaints, that you ought to have the right to know? So I didn't want the federal government to do that. Sure straight. I didn't want the federal government involved in figuring out whether you like your washing machine or not. If you don't like your washing machine, you go make that. Go to great. There's 1,000 places you can go. Where you do not need to go is the federal government. The folks behind that piece of legislation were a group of folks you all know very well. They're called the plaintiffs' bar. They like to get their hands on information about complaints so they can file class action lawsuits. What on earth would the federal government be doing involved in consumer complaints online creating it is chaos. Mr. Tiahrt has been critical of becoming saying that's a specialist. And yeah, special if y'all are an American and you like your freedom. It's very special. So when the politician tells you something, I just want you to be very careful with it. When he tells you he'll pledge to reduce the size and scope of the federal government, remember, he wants the nanny state creating a database so that you have a place to complain when you're unhappy with your hand mixer.
Mr. Tiahrt, where do you stand on Common Core? And we will, if you get elected, watch how you vote.
Okay, good. Well, Mr. Pompeo said that I voted for No Child Left Behind. And keep in mind there were two votes. The first vote, I fought very hard in the House to exclude Kansas from No Child Left Behind because we were measuring our progress through the National Assessment Education Program. So us and 11 other countries were already, 11 other states were already measuring progress for kids, and that was the big sales push, No Child Left Behind. So the version that I voted for, and he's a Harvard lawyer, he can go back and check this, the version that I voted for excluded Kansas from No Child Left Behind. The second vote was Ted Kennedy got a hold of it over in the Senate, and he pulled out that provision so that it applied to Kansas, and on the second vote, I voted no. However, Mr. Pompeo here has fully funded 7 times the Department of Education, and in there they have the reward program for Common Core. So he is, Arnie, what's the Secretary of Education's name? Arnie what? Arnie Duncan, that's right. So Secretary Arnie Duncan now has all the provisions and all the funding to give his race to the top provisions, which is how they're selling Common Core to the different states. So accusing me falsely of voting for the last version of No Child Left Behind, and yet 7 times fully funding Common Core, I think you should track his votes as well.
I agree. You should tax both of our votes. He says he's 50% on NCLB. That's not bad. And he voted for one, didn't vote for the other. That's not bad. I think it should be 0. I think the Common Core makes no sense.
Question: Where
Yeah,
I'm opposed to Common Core.
You're for Common Core?
Opposed to Common Core.
And I'm opposed to it too. And all the groups that care about, Tiahrt talked about fair tax and it not having a chance.
Why don't you just talk about the issue?
Same thing goes for some of these other things. Go look at the folks who are fighting for freedom, right? You all say, you all do have political action committees working on your behalf, as nasty as they may be in certain places. You have groups like Kansas for Life Act, you have groups like Freedom Works. There are groups out there that are working for it. So look at those groups. See what they did when they evaluated this between the two. I don't know about all this incumbent stuff. I can't answer that. I have no idea what you're referring to. What I can tell you is I think these people as being very serious. I think the people who run Kansas for Life as being very serious, committed pro-lifers. I think the chance of them having made their decision because someone in Washington, D.C. and leadership told them to do so is very low. I say the same thing for these other political action committees as well.
Back. I want to sit down. I want to thank you both for being pro-life. That is one of my points. Okay. Again, thank you for being both pro-life. But I have 2 other concerns I would like to ask you. The second one is obviously about the fair tax. How will you prevent that, as it happens so often, items will be put into that legislation that don't belong there and that will backfire? And I don't have an example at this point, but except for one, and that would be what if we get a fair tax, which is a consumption tax, and keep the precedent system? What can you do to prevent it? And the third question I have, or third item I have, is do you support Israel in its fight against its very fight for existence?
I'll answer your third one first. Yes, I've been a stalwart to make sure that America is doing everything it can. I've been criticized for that, frankly, in some cases. I've been criticized for America being prepared to defend Israel and those fighting against radical Islamic terrorism. The President won't even talk about it. The President clutched out in Syria when we had a chance to go crush these terrorists. Wouldn't do it. Advocated for a much more robust response. There are conservatives who don't like that, right? There are conservatives, there are Republicans who think we should pull back to our shores. I don't believe that's for a second. We should have crushed predecessors to ISIS early on. As for your question about how you prevent things from getting attacked, it's difficult. Mr. Tiahrt would probably agree. Folks attach things. It happens. It's part of the legislative process. We've got to make sure that we don't end up with both a fair tax and an income tax. That's why you have, as one of the tickers on the board here, repeal the 16th Amendment. We've got to do it. We've got to do that all. That's the right answer. My pledge is to work as hard as I can to make sure that happens.
I support Israel strongly, always have. My concerns about what's going on over there now is that Mr. Obama, Mr. Pompeo, Pompeo support armed the wrong people in Syria. And I think that's the same crew that's running through Iraq now. If you would talk to the Lebanese community here in Wichita, you'll find out that they're very concerned. They were opposed to any action by the U.S. in Syria because it only places Christians in danger. And it's this ISIS group that has burned churches that have been there for centuries and executed Christians. And we just picked the wrong team. I think we picked the wrong team in Libya. That's why we end up with Benghazi. We picked the wrong team in Egypt. That's why we end up with the Muslim Brotherhood running the country. We have a habit of picking the wrong team. And to me, when you have Syria, which has both sides against us, neither one of them like us, we shouldn't be getting any blood or treasure involved there. Let them fight it out. Yet, as far as fair tax hearings, you know, it's kind of ugly when it works the process of legislation. I would want a pure, as proposed, fair tax. That's what I support. But Mr. Pompeo is right. You can't control that process. We are a representative form of government, and frankly, we have members of Congress that can hardly read their speeches. I don't think they really have thought through a lot of it, and they're very subjective to having somebody push ideas into their head or their leadership controlling them. And so it's going to be a difficult process. It won't be a pure process, and it probably won't be what you would like. I think every vote in Washington, D.C. is like having a little orange juice in your coffee. Every time you take a drink of coffee, you have to decide whether it's too much or tolerable. And sometimes bills get to be too much, and you vote no. And if they're tolerable, you vote yes. But I don't think we'll get a clean fair tax bill anytime soon. But I think it's worth fighting for, and certainly worth demanding a hearing. I know when I was there, the Democrats were in control. A guy named Charlie Rangel was the head of the Ways and Means Committee. You guys know who Charlie Rangel is? The guy who pays taxes. Isn't this ironic? The head of the tax committee gets in trouble for not paying his taxes. And who does he blame? He blames his staff. It wasn't my fault. I didn't do it. It was the Bart Simpson defense. I didn't do it. Nobody saw me. You can't prove anything. So I want you to ask me, you know, why can't we have hearings on the fair tax? I want to have a fair tax hearing. He said, Todd, well, I'm chairman. That's not going to happen. And I understood he's a Democrat, he's the chairman, he can control that. So I said, well, why, Charlie? He said, well, I like the current system. And I said, how can you possibly like it? It costs us $500 billion, $500 billion a year just to repair taxes, not to pay them just to repair. And Charlie said to me, because I can reward my friends and punish my enemies. And that's exactly why we need a fair tax.
I want to thank you two for coming here today to answer questions and stand before we the people. I really do. It shows you who cares about the people in Kansas and the people that show up to answer questions. We can do an Article 5 convention. We can turn ourselves inside out. We can do this. We can throw up bills just for show. But there's a thing called the check and balance. Obama can threaten to veto. Supreme Court can do its thing. And the states can refuse to go along with things as long as they have the leadership to do it. What I'm concerned about is for people to understand this check and balance is not just the House of Representatives has the full authority. The Senate has been advised that they don't have the authority of the check and balance of the purse. So you guys in Congress, why can't you step up next week or the next time we're in session and shut off every penny to the IRS until they give up every email and answer everything and every penny of Obamacare? Now, I know Obama had $440 million set aside in case you guys actually got that idea to do it. Why aren't you doing it? I mean, we didn't vote for John Boehner. Fortunately, Tim Hill stands for us. When are you guys going to start standing for us?
So it's a fair question. That frustration exists in lots of folks, including me. But I have, so I voted it when you recall the government shutdown now almost a year ago. Voted to keep it shut down. This is the problem inside our party. The things you speak to are precise. The folks that have been there that served in the 90s and the early 2000s, right? They came in as the class of 94 with vim and vigor, and they left as the Tom DeLay earmarkers. Right? That's what happened. There was this transition that took place. And so today, inside our party, you still have lots of folks that think that way. And So you saw the fight. You see them play out on television, and you see it play out on CNN and Fox News. You see it play out, you see these fights inside the Republican Party. I'm happy to do precisely what you just described there. There are probably 90 to 100. There was a bill on the floor a week before last to take, I think it was 1% out of a federal agency. We got 110 votes. That's 110 of ours. That means we got less than half of our own caucus. This is the challenge that America faces today. We've got to go elect not just folks with an R behind their name, but true believing, freedom-loving conservatives. And when we do that, we'll get to where you and I both want to get.
Well, we ought to have that fight with the purse strings. It's Article 1, Section 7 of the Constitution says every Section 7, correct. I'm always appreciative of Harvard lawyer correcting me on the Constitution. Article 1, Section 7, all funding bills start in the House, and it should be, we should be seeing that exercise. In 1995 and 96, it was actually in the fall of 95 and in January of 1996, the government was shut down in 4. And at that time, we had better leadership. We didn't have John Boehner, we had Newt Gingrich. And what we got for that government shutdown was an agreement with a Democrat to balance the federal budget. In fiscal year 98, fiscal year 99, fiscal year 2000, fiscal year 2001, we had balanced budgets. We had a surplus. We paid down the federal debt. And then at the end of fiscal year 2001 was September 30th, 2001. You all remember what happened on September 11th, 2001. That's when we had an attack in our economy, took a dive and went into the red. And we have been in the red ever since. We fought wars on 2 fronts. So what did we get for the balance for our government shutdown? We got a balanced budget, 4 years of surpluses. What did they get last fall under this great leadership? Zip. They got nothing for it, except embarrassment. No, we took embarrassment too. We lost the fight in the media. That's not uncommon for Republicans, but we got a balanced budget for 4 years. I know how to balance the budget. And if I get a chance to go back there, I'll do the same thing. We'll freeze the government and let the economy grow faster than the federal government and get back to a surplus. That's what we need.
Regarding Obamacare, I've been told when I call my congressional representative to Kevin Yoder's office that they can't do anything about defunding, because he sits on the House Appropriations Committee, because most of Obamacare is mandatory. And I said, well, you can un-mandatory. You have to vote, you can try for legislation. This is smoke and mirrors. Truth be told, I've got more. I don't trust anybody except my husband. And I tell him, don't blow it. Haven't I? Seriously, I don't. Everybody who gets in office, whether it's at the state level or the federal level, it's about control. It's not about the people. It's about control and power. Committee of One. I just want you to know and sick to death, all of it.
Thank you for that question, Nancy.
What was that about lobbying?
These are the...
Oh, I got some away.
Okay. This is for
Hold it
Okay.
hold my commissions away.
Mike Pompeo was your first and your third town hall meetings which you had, which I appreciate going to, and you've stopped having them lately. Call your office all the time and they never come. You said you were for the flat or the fair tax. You said you're for both of them.
Tiahrt co-sponsored the fair tax, and later on I read an article in the newspaper where he was looking at both.
The flat or the fair tax. You guys evaluated the plans and have you picked one, or are you still waffling?
I spoke with the fair tax and the flat tax. I prefer the fair tax. It's a little higher bar because of having to repeal the 16th Amendment. The flat tax would be a much more easier way to fill out your taxes. But I think as far as the economy, the fair tax would have a much better impact on the economy. You could control your taxes, you could take off it would come out of the price of products. It's just a much better system. So I would much prefer the fair tax, but it's very difficult to repeal any amendment. We went through that once with prohibition and repealed it later. Very, very high bar to attain. And a committee of the states would be very high bar to attain as well. But yeah, I prefer the fair tax.
All right, I'm going to say something controversial too. I agree with Todd Tiahrt. Yeah, I'm sure they'll play that in a commercial somewhere or something different. Look, but your question's a good one. It's a reasonable one. I think the fair tax is a much better solution. I've been working with Mike Lee. You can go watch some of his videos. I have a bill to get rid of a bunch of special interest provisions of the current tax code. You could say, gosh, you shouldn't go work on that, Mike, because the fair tax is sitting out there. Fair enough. I've tried. Senator Lee co-sponsored the bill. We're working on it diligently to try and get the current code back in the interim while we're trying to do the perfect to get the better. It's a difficult challenge. So we're working. It's called the Economic Freedom and Prosperity Act. It's trying to get rid of every energy subsidy, every energy tax credit in the entire code. It doesn't favor wind, it doesn't favor solar, it doesn't favor oil and gas. It favors none of them. That's not a place we actually don't agree. Mr. Tiahrt thinks we should do special things for wind and for ethanol. I think we should. I think you'll decide. You'll pick the best energy source. You'll find the rest of the government shouldn't be using your money to subsidize those energy sources. And so, by the way, as a Kansan, I get it. I get, though, that it is better for America if we have a tax code that doesn't pick between different energy sources. That's why Senator Lee got on board with this thing. And so I'd love to get to the fair tax, because in the interim we could make the tax smaller, the IRS less intrusive, the tax code flatter, better.
It's now 3:24. We've got the room till 4 o'clock, but we do need to be able to clear out. Do you guys want to continue to take questions, or you guys need to roll? 3:30. Okay. So I'm happy to stay for a handful more. And how about you, Todd? Comfortable stay till 3:30? Does that work for everyone else? Okay, as long as we've got questions, we'll stop right at 3:30.
One more question.
With all the revelations on what the NSA is doing on spying, things that they're doing about reading their email, metadata, they're looking at messaging, they're looking at everything. They've got a facility in Utah that's big enough to store all this data. And I want to know, how come you continue to support the NSA, knowing how much spying is going on with us? Because they're not catching the terrorists, they're spying on us. And I want to know why you continue to support knowing what's going on in the intelligence community.
So I have three things to say, maybe. First of all, much of the information you're reading is just false. I don't like to correct constituents. I don't like, but when you got to have facts. Ma'am, you got to have facts. You don't believe what Edward Snowden is stitching you. I'll try and be clear about what's going on as best I understand it. I'll tell you what I know. I'll tell you what I think Mr. Tiahrt knows. The government is not reading your emails. It's not listening. It's not targeting Americans. The NSA is out there doing its work, trying to crush radical Islamic terrorism. It is its focus. There's no doubt about it. Had oversight of it. Mr. Tiahrt sat on the Intelligence Committee. In fact, you'll remember the scenario that caused this metadata program that got so many folks so stirred up. It concerns me too. I want to make sure we do it well. But remember how this goes down. 9/11, the criticism. Does everybody remember? We had folks in San Diego talking to folks in very bad places in the Middle East, and our agencies didn't catch it. And so there was an effort to go try and figure out how to do that better. It was called the Patriot Act. Mr. Tiahrt supported the Patriot Act. He was there in 2002. And it was an effort to go try and solve that very real problem that caused 3,000 Americans to be killed. He then voted for it 3 more times. He supported it because it made sense. He had oversight. He saw the reports. The language didn't change materially. The programs have been run largely the same, with one exception. There was a program called the Warrantless Wiretapping Program. Now gone, Mr. Tiahrt supported that. Supported warrantless wiretapping. So now let's fast forward to today. I sit on the intelligence committee. I have oversight, responsibility for what the NSA does and doesn't do. I see the reports of their activity about once a quarter. I get briefed by a Marine colonel on their activities. There are good debates. There was a debate about whether the government should have the full data stack. You remember this? Should they have this metadata collected? Americans, people decided they didn't want it. I voted to get rid of that. There was concern that said, hey, we ought to make sure that the Patriot Act doesn't authorize the American government to target U.S. persons, their emails, their electronic online processing. I offered an amendment that made sure that that could not happen. It made it very clear. It's called the Pompeo Amendment. You can look it up. It's very simply written. But this program that the American government is engaged in, what the NSA does each and every day. Does anybody know who General Boykin is? Boykin is a warrior against radical Islamic terror. He wrote a letter just the other day supporting exactly what it is I'm doing. Running programs that crush terrorism, support Israel, and do it with a way that the United States Constitution permits. That's where we are today. And I'm very, 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 very aware of privacy concerns. There's no one, you've heard me speak for too long now, frankly. No one distrusts the federal government more than I do. We've got Article 1 oversight, me. We've got federal joint court oversight, and we've got oversight from Article 2. And our military. It gives me great comfort.
All the requests for the cyber court have all been rubber stamped. There's not any been turned down. The government gets everything.
This kind of reminds me of the Wizard of Oz, where the wizard says, "Don't look behind the curtain." General Clapper, who is the Director of National Intelligence, admitted that government analysts were looking at private citizens' private information. I did support the Patriot Act. It was written by Jim Sensenbrenner, who at the time was the chairman of the Judiciary Committee. If you go to his website, he will tell you how the Obama administration, in the last 4 years, has broadened the interpretation of the Patriot Act and now is collecting information on private citizens. The warrantless wiretap wasn't for American citizens. It was for overseas. It wasn't for us. We have the protections here. And we held hearings. The ACLU was making a lot of noise about how civil liberties was being violated because of the Patriot Act. So we held hearings on that. We said, bring those examples to us. We'd like to do something about it. And all of them that were brought here, we checked it out, and there was no violations of civil liberties that could be presented by the ACLU. But then when Obama took over, and the Republicans fully funded his efforts, whether it was Obamacare or whether it was NSA, we have these broad sweeps now where they may think they have a terrorist in this room, but they're going to collect all our information anyway. And according to the Washington Post article on July 5th, 80% of our phone calls are being listened to and recorded by the federal government. This is a violation of the Fourth Amendment, a violation of illegal searches and seizures. And I will oppose it if you give me the opportunity to go there and represent you. I won't tell you don't look behind the curtain. I'll say, let's stop this nonsense now. We want a warrant. We want just cause. We want protection from the Fourth Amendment. Otherwise, no deal, no funding.
We're done.
This year, the Defense Authorization Appropriations Act, bill, Mr. Pompeo voted no on an amendment that put back in protections on our Fourth Amendment, okay, that would ban the NSA. They had to go down to the FISA court and get a warrant. It's right here in this article.
Yep.
I'd like to know why.
I should indicate that this is solid conservative vote. I'm going to vote every time to make sure we keep America safe. There is no capacity for America to capture U.S.
of our liberty.
Yes, ma'am. I'm deeply constitutional believer.
Thank you very much.
I always will be. Thank you.
The article is noted. Unfortunately, we ran out of time to